The first way is to create your own experience, and the second way is to kind of craft your current experience into data experience.
Welcome to the Data Nerd Podcast. I'm your host, Nisar Ahmed. Join me as we explore the inner data nerd inside all of us. Dive into the world of data alongside special guests who not only share their wealth of experience and knowledge, but also unveil what truly makes them data nerds. This podcast is brought to you by Business Intelligence. That's BIZNIS Intelligence. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Business Intelligence to stay up to date with Tableau training and the Data Nerd podcast. Connect with me on LinkedIn or stream the Data Nerd podcast across all major podcast platforms. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Avery Smith to the Data Nerd podcast. Avery, welcome to the Data Nerd podcast.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you on, Avery. So a little introduction for those who do not know Avery. Avery Smith is the founder of Data Career Jumpstart and a passionate advocate for helping people break into data careers. With a background in engineering and a self-taught journey into data science, Avery has built a thriving community focused on making data careers more accessible. He shares insights on career growth, data storytelling, and the power of personal projects in shaping a data-driven future. So Avery, this is an introduction and I'll be honest here, I asked ChatGPT to write an introduction about you. So this is what ChatGPT gave me. Does this sound good?
Yeah, I think so. I think it did a good job. Yep, exactly. I try to help people land their first data job. I have a podcast. I make a lot of LinkedIn posts. I do a lot of YouTube, and I have a boot camp where I help people try to break into the field. So yeah, I think it did a great job.
Awesome. A lot of similarities here as I'm listening to you. I'm not in the data. I don't help people get into data careers, but we got the podcast, working data. We both got hats on. So,
True.
a lot going on here. So, before we start, I asked all my guests this initial question, this being the Data Nerd podcast. Are you a data nerd? And if so, tell me a time when you realized you were one.
Well, yes, I definitely think I'm a big data nerd. Um, I that there's lots of evidences. For example, my dog has a Fitbit, so I can track her steps and like her activity
Oh,
level.
yeah.
But I think like I first figured out I was a data nerd. Honestly, looking back on it, this is kind of with hindsight. When I was like in like seventh grade, we had to do a project for my math class. And I played soccer growing up. I played college soccer as well. And so I was a really big soccer fan. And I was really obsessed with soccer balls. And so for my math project, I tried to like basically quantify statistically the difference in different soccer balls. So like was one ball faster than another? Did like one have like more spinning capabilities than another? Obviously, my experimentation was probably very flawed because I was the one kicking it, and it's not like I kicked it evenly every time, even though I was trying to.
Yeah.
But I analyzed, a bunch of data and made some charts and stuff like that. And now, like back then, I didn't know what my career would look like, but now it's pretty fun to look back and be like, oh my gosh, that was a data analytics project, and now I spend a lot of my time helping other people make data analytics projects. So I think that's probably my first evidence that I am a data nerd.
Yeah, and that's pretty young too. Did you get an, did you start thinking like that because you were influenced by something at that point in your life, or was it just something you always had a curiosity for?
It's a good question. I don't know. To be honest, like I didn't know what any career was probably in seventh grade. Nevertheless, data analytics and data science, and also they weren't nearly as popular back then than they are now. I'm not super, old, but like it's really grown in the last 10 years quite a bit, data analytics has. Um, so I didn't like know that I wanted to become a data analyst until I really got into college. In college, I was like, oh, what do I study? I don't really know. And I had this feeling that I wanted to invent stuff. I like wanted to be like an inventor. I don't even know what the heck that was going on in my brain, but I had done well in chemistry and in math in high school. And so I was like, oh, I'll combine those. and I'll be a chemical engineer and I could invent stuff. I don't know what I thought I was going to invent, but I got to my first semester of chemical engineering and I was like, oh, I actually only like math. And I'm good at math. I'm not good at chemistry. I'm just good at math. But early chemistry, like stoichiometry, is just math. So I mistakenly thought I was good at chemistry, but I was just good at math. And so I realized, crap, I gotta get rid of this chemistry stuff and just focus on data analytics. And I kind of changed my course schedule after that. But yeah, it's so I guess I don't know. I didn't really realize it until college.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people go through a similar thing, and we'll talk about this, right? Some people even realize it even further on in their careers, right? It doesn't have to be in college. They could be working for 10 years and be like, you know what, I want to get into analytics now, even if they don't have the experience. And so, at what stage in your life you come to that realization may be different for everyone. Not everyone has to follow this like standard path that you have to study data or analytics in college and get a degree and go down that route.
Yeah, it wasn't even, I mean, it wasn't even an option, I don't think. I don't think no,
Yeah.
yeah, my school didn't have an undergrad in data analytics or data science. I could have done like statistics or like economics or computer science, but definitely like specifically wasn't an option.
So I studied information systems, and so it's not data analytics per se, but it's very closely related to it. And so I feel like that was one of the first programs, at least, well, I grew up in Canada, so that's what we had. So that was my entry into the analytics space. But now there's so many options, right? You've got boot camps, you could even learn on your own. You can watch YouTube and learn it too. So a lot of different options now compared to what we had available at that time.
100%. You know, in your intro, one of the things it said was I was self-taught. And it's so funny because I will identify, I guess, as self-taught.
Mhm.
But I honestly kind of loathe is the wrong word, but I kind of laugh at that phrase of self-taught because it's like I wasn't like sitting down here in my office and like, okay, let me think here. Okay, let's start with linear. Like, I wish there was a way to like to predict something based off of other variables. Like, oh my gosh, linear regression. I just came up with linear regression. Like, we all learn from something, whether it's school or a
Yeah.
boot camp or books or something like that. And so, anyways, I kind of laugh at the term self-taught because yeah, like I became a data scientist without having a bachelor's degree in it or a master's degree or going to a boot camp or something like that. But like, why is that like a badge of honor? Like, this shouldn't be. Like, I learned a lot from books. I had a couple of like mentors that were really influential to me in my life, and I learned a lot from them. But yeah, you're right. There's so many different ways to learn, like podcasts, like this podcast, my podcast, the Data Career Podcast.
Yeah.
It's just like there's an explosion of ways you can learn.
No, yeah, for sure. There's so many options. Um, and and that's what we want to talk about here, right? Like how people listening want to know, or maybe they don't have experience and they want to land a career in data. Or even if they have experience, they maybe want to make a switch or they want to get a different job. And you talk about how, or you help people land a data career job. And you, on your LinkedIn profile and what you promote a lot on LinkedIn, or for what I see, is you mentioned that you don't necessarily need experience to get a job, right? So can you talk about that? Like what does that mean? Like how do you get a job without the experience?
Well, it's funny because it's kind of like a chicken or the egg thing, right? It's like what comes first. It's like I can't get a job because I don't have experience. Well, why don't you have experience? Well, it's because I can't get a job. And it's this like never-ending cycle of like of doom. Like how the heck are you ever supposed to get data experience if you can't get a data job because you don't have data experience?
Yeah.
And so what I found is there's kind of two different ways to break that cycle of doom. The first way is to create your own experience, and the second way is to kind of craft your current experience into data experience.
Mhm.
So we can go into either of those. Which one would you like to start with?
Well, first of all, I agree with both perspectives as well. So we can go either or. So I teach a class too. I tell people build your own portfolio, right? For example, Tableau Public. go and build something. So let's go that route. Like how do you create your own experience? How do you build a portfolio?
Well, yeah, you kind of nailed it. Like creating a project and putting it on a portfolio is really a great way to create your own experience. So for me, I think you should start a project based off of something you're really passionate about, or like a specific company you really want to work for. The reason being is building projects, you're not getting paid to do it. You're doing it on your own time, and you're gonna hit roadblocks. So you want to be motivated to actually get this done.
Yeah.
So like for instance, for me, one of my favorite projects I've ever done, I love basketball. And so I love the NBA. And so
Yeah.
one of the things I did was like I web scraped all of ESPN every game log for the Utah Jazz, and I stole their like their shooting chart. So basically, they have a chart that shows where every player shot and whether they made it or missed it. And I did some really cool analysis on that. And that became a portfolio project for me, and it was really exciting. And so I was actually able to present that when I wanted an internship, and I was like, hey, Utah Jazz, look what I already built. Like, look how cool I am. You guys should hire me. And they're like, okay, yeah, we'll hire you.
So they gave you the job?
Yeah, I did an internship with the Utah Jazz a couple of years ago.
They gave you the internship or they give you a full-time job?
No, an internship. I wasn't
Okay.
interested in a full-time job. I love sports analytics, but unfortunately, like 98% of them just do not pay well enough because there is quite a high demand for them. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay, so I'll tell you a personal story. I love sports too. And that's actually my origin story. Like I knew I was a data nerd because I would like look at baseball statistics every day and like I loved it. And so now that I have this experience in data, I'm like, "Well, can I transition into sports?" But I came to the realization that you do have to take a pay cut to work in sports. And not that the pay is everything. Obviously, there's other factors. And so, but I think that's just the reality is that, you have to give and take a little bit. But that doesn't mean, and I did the same thing. Like I love basketball too, but I'm from Canada, so I love hockey. So I have a couple of hockey dashboards that I kind of scrape together using my own data as well, and put out there. And I think what you said is key. Work with data that you love. Because when you're working with data that you love, your passion comes through, and I think you do a better job with that type of data because you're invested in it or your heart's in it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you want to do stuff. If you're going to be doing stuff on your own time and on your own dime, you have to enjoy it.
So what did you do with the Utah Jazz when they hired you? Were you actually doing analytics, like player analytics? You helping the coaching staff, or was it more on the business side?
More on the business side,
Okay.
unfortunately. I wish it was on the player side.
That would have been cool if you were working with the players, right?
Well, yes, it would have been awesome. The Jazz have been pretty bad the last like 5 years though. So anyways, I'm happy their business is thriving because of my analytics. Let's put it that way.
Nice, nice. Uh, I think to work with the players though, you need to have some type of basketball acumen to do that. It's not just being good at numbers.
Yeah, I think it does help for sure to have some prior sport domain experience. I mean, that's the other
Domain
thing is
experience.
you
Yeah.
can create your own experiences. Whatever job you have now, try to approach it as a data analyst would. Try to, if you're in some job now, try to use Excel. Maybe you can make a chart in Tableau or something like that. That's the other way you can create experience is taking what you
Yeah.
currently do and trying to approach it as a data analyst. And then those bullets on your LinkedIn and your resume become more data focused than whatever you're doing now. This week, I don't know when this episode's coming out, but I'm releasing an episode with one of my boot camp students who was a delivery driver. She did pizzas, she did Amazon, she did TikTok packages. So like that's not very data related, right?
Mhm.
But she joined my program, and then like 17 weeks later, she just landed a six-figure job at a FANG company as a data analyst. And one of the reasons why is because she approached this delivery job as a data analyst. She was trying to like A/B test different things and different routes. She really tried to approach this job that has nothing to do with data analytics as if she was a data analyst. And that mindset and that experience made great bullet points.
That's a perfect example. Any job that you do, whether you're working as an analyst or not, you're working with data. Most people are, and you can create your own projects. That's how I studied information systems. My first job out of college was not working as a data analyst. I was doing tech support. But what did I do? I used the data that in from the call center, and I told my manager like I want to do a project. I want to help out, and he's like, okay, go for it. And so then I analyzed like all of the calls coming in and what areas we need to improve and customer satisfaction, and that wasn't my full-time job, but I did it as a side project. And what happened was there was internal postings which I applied for within the company, and then I showed them my project. Hey, this is what I did, and they're like, "Oh, this is great." And that was my experience, right? I created my own experience, and I think that's what you're pr talking about as well, is create your own experience, regardless of if you're what you're doing in your current job.
100%. That's actually like one of the first things I teach in my program is the internal pivot. That's the easiest place to land a data job
Yeah.
is with your current company because they already know you, they already like you. You can like actually network with the hiring manager, or if there's already a data analyst, you can talk to them. My first job in data was also an internal pivot. It's if you can make it work, that's like the easiest place to snag that first job.
Yeah, and you have a leg up on external candidates too, right? Because you would think they would prefer the internal candidates if they're qualified,
Yeah,
especially now it's such a demanding. It's very competitive right now, and
100%.
any leg up you can get would help. So, but on that note, also, if you are looking for jobs, and I saw you post about this or talk about this on LinkedIn, you talk about the best way to get a job is not by cold applying. It's by networking. It's people you know, right? So do you want to talk about that? Like why? Well, I think I know the reason why, but can you maybe explain how to do that and
It's
why you think it's beneficial?
Yeah, it's hard because networking is always uncomfortable. But the truth is, at the end of the day, humans hire humans. And it's still a very human-led process, the hiring process. And so if you have an opportunity to connect with the decision maker, or hiring manager, or recruiter, or whoever, you're gonna have a leg up, especially when, there's 500 applicants plus to every data job getting posted. So if you can if they can actually know your name and they can know your face, you have all the advantage. So how do you actually do that?
Yeah,
Um, it's there's two different approaches to take. One is to start with people you already know, and the second one is to approach people you don't know. I think it's always easier to approach people that you do know because they know, like, and trust you already. So there's a plethora of different ways that you can do this. But one of the easiest ways is just talking to your friends and neighbors. And when they ask you, hey, how you doing? What you been up to recently? Instead of
mm,
saying, oh, not much, just chilling. I was at this social event last night. I was hanging out with my friends, my wife's friends, and I
mm,
didn't know anyone there. And they're like, hey, well, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good. And I didn't really say anything, right? And I think that's what most of us do. But you can open up your mouth and be like, yeah, I'm great. I'm trying to become a data analyst right now. I'm trying to, land a new job. Like that's something you can say, and they can be like, "Oh, interesting," and that can be the end of the conversation. Or a lot of the times they'll be like, "Oh, my buddy's a data analyst, or my uncle's a data analyst, or oh yeah, I work for this company. We have a lot of data analysts," and it just starts a conversation.
yeah.
And those people who you kind of know, like your neighbors or friends and family, they're motivated. Like they want to, if they can help you, they want to help you. So that can be a great place to start. The other option is to start with people who don't know you and send them cold messages and cold emails and stuff like that. That's a little bit more of a grind sometimes, but it can be effective as well because a lot of the times you're targeting people who are hiring or you think may be hiring in the future, and you can make an impression on them that is greater than just sending your resume to some black hole applicant tracking system where no human ever sees it.
So let me. I like both points. Let me talk about your second point first. The cold networking. I get messages on LinkedIn from people like cold messaging and say, "Can I get a referral?" Like right off the bat. I never give it to them because I don't know who they are. Like how if I'm giving a referral, I'm putting my name on it, and I'm attaching, and I'm saying that I trust this person. If I never met this person, I don't know them, why would I give a referral? So is asking for a referral right off the bat the wrong strategy? And if so, like how do you go about it? Like if you don't know the person, how do you get to know them?
It's a tricky battle here because um you want to be you don't want to be like, hey, how's the weather? How are you? Like you want to
Yeah.
like kind of get straight to the point because it's like no one wants to have a conversation with a stranger. But you're right. If you ask for a referral, majority of the time, straight up, you're not going to get it. And so there's kind of a fun phrase where if you ask for a referral, you get advice, but if you ask for advice, you get a referral. And so,
Mm.
if I was like, hey, I really like your career progression. I studied the same thing in college. Like, this is my situation. What advice would you give me? I think a lot of the times, and it depends because if people send that to me, I get like 15 of those messages a day, so it's hard for me to respond to all of those. But for most people, they maybe get, I don't know, maybe one a month or something like that, and they're more likely to respond to a message like that. The other thing that you can try to do is try to appeal to someone in some way. So maybe we went to the same school,
Yeah.
like alumni networks. Like I'm more, if someone messages me from help and they're like, hey, I went to the University of Utah, I'm like, go Utes, I'm gonna help you out.
Mhm.
Or like for instance, you told me earlier that you like the Canadiens, right? Like in hockey. If someone's like, I love hockey, you're more
Yeah.
likely to help them. So if you can connect and then try to ask for advice, I think that can lead to more referrals.
Yeah, that connection aspect is key, right? The other way you could connect, LinkedIn's a great way. And I'm not talking about cold messaging. Um, for example, you post quite regularly on LinkedIn. If you see comments from people regularly, like if I'm commenting on your post every day or more often than not, you're going to recognize me. Like it's an indirect way for us to know each other. And then I'm not asking for anything, but if a time comes where I need something and I reach out to you, you're like, oh, hey, Nassar, I know you. How can I help? Right. And so I think if you're active on LinkedIn, not just scrolling and reading comments, but and I'm not saying you necessarily have to write posts, but it helps if you do. But even just commenting, especially on posts with people who you want to connect with, is a
Yes.
great way for them to get to know you or be recognized.
Yes, like I said, I get like 10 messages a day of people asking to work for my company or any opening positions. I'm like, there's no open positions. You can check online. I don't have any open positions. But actually the last person I hired, his name's Isaac Orasanya.
Mm.
He's from Nigeria and he had posted every day or he had commented on my LinkedIn post pretty much every day for 6 months. And so finally one day I was like, I just want to meet this guy. I just want to
Yeah.
talk to this guy. So I just scheduled a 15-minute call and I just got to know him. And then an opportunity came, I don't know, maybe a month later. And I was like, I bet you Isaac could do this. And then Isaac's been working for me for almost a year now, pretty much full time, pretty close to full time now. And he never asked me for a job once, and he's the only person that I've hired off of LinkedIn. So
That's the best way to get a job is when opportunities present themselves without you asking for it. It happens. It's not like you don't necessarily have to be the best person for the job either for you to be offered the job. You just have to be at the right place, the right time, and know the right people. Like, I'm not saying it's luck. I think you create your own luck, right?
I mean, that's the hard part is like there is a reality where Isaac spent all that time commenting on my LinkedIn and I never reached out to him and I never hired them. That's the thing about networking is it's pointless until it's 100% not pointless. And you don't know at what point it's going to pay off. But like you said, the more seeds you sow, the more effort you put into networking, the luckier you get.
Yeah.
So I do think you create your own luck, but it does require luck as well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, okay, so we talked about the cold referral, and your first point was reaching out to people you already know,
Friends and
right?
family. Mhm.
So obviously they have familiarity with you, right? Or you're at these events, and like you said, you're at a social gathering and you're talking about, oh, I'm looking for this and that. What tends to happen, and maybe this is a common characteristic with people in the data field, is that generally speaking, not everyone, but I'm saying generally speaking, people who are more technical are less comfortable talking, or like they're not necessarily extroverts, or they don't always speak their mind or communicate. They're good technically and they like to do work. And so a lot of people don't go out of their way to kind of not market themselves or sell themselves, but they don't talk about themselves, you know? Um, so is that what you should do? Is just, and don't be afraid to like tell people what you do and you never know like what opportunities come from that.
It's hard because I never want to be like you have to be extroverted, but I do think being an extrovert helps with networking. Like you said, I think it just comes more natural to them. I'm actually an introvert despite having like a large social media presence. Like I did not talk to
You and
one
me
person.
both. I'm an introvert too.
There you go. But like the good thing about networking, especially in person, is it can just be like a one-on-one conversation with someone you already know. And I'll tell you one of my favorite. This is the way I got. It actually wasn't my data job, but it was the job that led to my data job.
Mm.
Was and one of my students actually landed a data job this way. Is just at church on Sundays. I talked to. I was visiting my parents' church, the like church I grew up going to, and this guy hadn't seen me in a while, and he's like, "What are you up to?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm a chemical lab technician, so I work in a lab." And he's like, "Well, do you know I work in a lab and pretty close to you?" And I was like, "I had no idea." And he's like, "Okay, great. Well, you should come check it out." Came check it out. I got hired there as a lab technician, and then I transferred to a data analyst. And same with my one of my students, Rachel, who I have a podcast episode with on the Data Career podcast. She was just at church one Sunday and was like, "Hey, yeah, I'm." Her friend was like, "Hey, how's your week?" She's like, "Good. I'm exhausted because I've been studying a lot to become a data analyst." And she's like, "Oh, well, my boyfriend is a data analyst at this company. You should talk to him." And then it just so happened they were hiring, and I don't think she even really like. I mean, she had to interview, of course, but like she got to skip the line and talk straight to the hiring manager. So it's just like you can have these one-on-one conversations in some of the most random places that have a huge impact.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, we can go on and on about like networking best practices and whatnot, right? But, so here's the message I'm getting from you, right? Networking versus cold calling, building your or versus cold um, applying, building a portfolio, creating your own experience. If you have a job, um, find something internally, create those opportunities, right? Now, what about, and I think this is one of your more recent posts on LinkedIn that I saw, was about what tools should I learn? Okay. And what I'm hearing from you is that it doesn't matter what tool to use. It's what problems can I solve, regardless of the tool I'm using. So if I'm looking to get into analytics, for example, is it important for me to learn SQL and Tableau, or is it more important for me to figure out how to solve a problem?
Yeah, this is an interesting topic because I definitely think problem solving and clear communication is like your number one and number two weapon as a data analyst. But obviously, like you you can't really be a data analyst without some sort of tool. You have to be able to analyze one way or another.
Hmm.
I guess you could just do it all by hand, but I think that's harder. I think you want to use
Yeah.
some sort of a tool. So you do have to at some point decide what tool to maybe start with or to learn. For a lot of people, that can be Excel because they've used Excel in school or at a different job,
Mm.
and it's actually great because it's a really in-demand tool. So that could be a great start. I like SQL a lot. I like Tableau a lot. I like Python a lot. Python's actually my favorite data tool. But I actually don't recommend to people who are starting to learn it because it has like a really steep learning curve.
Yeah.
And it's actually not required in all that many data analyst jobs. When you get to like data science and data engineering, it's required a lot more. But for like data analysts, and that's where I think everyone should start. I think the gateway position for the data world. Um, Anyways, so like it's not required even that much. So for me, when I'm recommending people, I think they should look at two things. One, how in demand the data tool is. Are people actually, hiring this tool? And two, how is it for you to learn? So for example, Excel, really in demand and kind of easy for you to learn because you probably already used it.
Mhm.
Python, kind of in demand, but hard to learn. So that's one of the reasons I don't recommend it. So my recommendation is always Excel and then Tableau and then SQL. And those are the first three. And you should
Yeah.
be able to land a job after those three.
Yep. Those are exactly the three things I teach in I do 10-week certification programs for intro to analytics. Those are the three skills that I teach. And you're 100% right. It's not about like, and then people ask me in the class, like, should I know Python? I see Python on all these job descriptions, but I think they're there as like a bonus or good to know rather than a requirement.
Yeah, it obviously depends on what jobs they're looking at. I
Yeah.
actually just today, I can't give a URL yet because I don't know what the URL is going to look like yet. But just today, so I run a job board.
Yeah.
It's called
Yes.
findadatajob.com.
Mm.
And so we post about 60 jobs a week. On the job board. So we've posted 2,844 jobs since November. And I'm able to see right now exactly what we take the data that from the job board, we do some data science on it, pull out like what terms are used. So I can actually see like right now that for those 2,844 jobs, 1,082 of them mentioned Excel. So that ends up being, I think, 27%. That's the number one. Python was 386. So 386 divided by 2,844 ends up being, yeah, just like 14%. So it's going to be listed.
Yeah.
But out of the jobs we're finding, and we try to find more entry level jobs, not data science jobs, more like data analyst jobs. It's only listed 14% of the time. My favorite data tool, I love it. But it's like, do you really want to spend all this time learning it so you could apply to 14% more jobs? Probably
Yeah,
not.
I agree. I agree. Excel is a very underrated tool. People think that it's a tool that's in the past, and now you have to focus on business intelligence or Tableau or Power BI. But you can do a lot with Excel. I mean, my the beginning of my career was completely Excel based, and I learned so much in Excel. Now I've pivoted to, you know, to Tableau, but there's still a time and place for Excel, and it's still very useful. I don't think it's like extinct or like not needed anymore. I think, like you said, if you can use that to do your job, there's still a lot of value in knowing Excel.
It's an amazing gateway drug into the world of data analytics. Like, a
Yeah,
lot of people end up getting into data with Excel. So, I stink at Excel. It's probably one of my not so good skills. I never got good at it for some reason, but I respect the heck out of it. It's the most in demand tool for these data analyst positions I've been looking at, and you can get a lot done. Like you can get a lot done with Excel, and you can go your whole career. I had Matt Bratton on my podcast.
yeah,
He's
I
like in
know
the
him. Yeah,
C-suite. Okay, perfect. He's in like the
yeah.
C-suite of data. He's like only used Excel his whole career for like 25 years. So, like you could do
But he's
your
like the
whole
master of Excel,
he
right?
is very good at Excel. He is very good at Excel.
Yeah.
But like my point is like if you didn't want to learn SQL, you didn't want to learn Tableau, there is some career path for you to not learn those.
So you should focus on one tool and be very good at it rather than knowing everything.
That's interesting. Ah, I That's really interesting. I don't like putting all of my eggs in one basket, especially when I'm getting started.
Mm.
So if you're listening to this and you're just getting started, I
Yeah,
probably wouldn't go that route unless you're like, I love Excel. But I think there is something to be said about like trying out Excel, SQL, Tableau, Python, Power BI, R maybe, and then you land a job, and then maybe at that job you get specialized in one of those,
yeah,
and then maybe you focus on that. I think that can make you um, really valuable. I've had someone on my podcast who's like an Alteryx specialist, and she's made a great career just focusing on Alteryx.
mm,
Um, I have a friend. It's actually funny. When I was at Exxon, a friend and I, we did a lot of Jump. Have you ever used Jump, JMP? It's a SaaS
I haven't.
product.
No.
It's a really fun tool. So anyways, we use Python and Jump a lot in conjunction. And now at his new job, he like became the expert in Python and Jump. And in fact, Plotly actually hired us to kind of compare Jump and Python and Plotly and these different things. So, anyways, so like there's definitely an opportunity for you to specialize, but I would wait until you are in your first data job.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Like I tell people, so I mean, my specialty, my number one skill now is Tableau, but I have to know SQL too. And when people ask me about jobs in Tableau, I ask them if they know SQL. They're like, why do we have to know SQL? It's like I don't like. It's very hard to get a job where Tableau is your only skill. You have to know like not everything will be done in Tableau. There's times where you have to just like query the table, get the answers without using a tool. And like you said, SQL is the number one
Yeah.
skill set you see in on analytics jobs.
Yeah, sequel's great. And the cool thing, I don't know if it's cool or if it's dangerous. I don't know. But like the in my opinion, you can get by with like an entry level data job with
Mm.
like 20 commands in SQL. Like it's
Yeah,
SQL's amazingly deep. Like
yeah,
there's I definitely am not like a SQL master and I could definitely get better at SQL. But like when you're first getting started, like there's 20 things you need to figure out and you can get pretty far. And then, of course, there's probably 2,000 things you can learn as you go. But like SQL's really not that hard to get started in, especially when you compare it to Python. Python like has like there's like so many things you have to know before you even like write one line of code. So, anyways, I think SQL is a tool that everyone should dabble in.
yeah. So I think you there's a knowledge a base level knowledge that you can know for SQL to get in order for you to qualify for a job. You don't have to be an expert at it, right? And like you said, and here's the thing, you don't have to say I'm not the expert. Like if you don't know it, you'll figure it out on the job. Like most of like the real learning, to be honest, I my real learning came on the job. I just have to prove that I'm capable of doing the job and learning and doing what's asked, and then you'll figure it out. Like if you're asked to do something you don't know how to do, just say you'll do it and you'll figure it out.
That's one of my core philosophies is there's three ways to learn in life.
Yeah.
You can learn for free, listening to podcasts,
Mm.
YouTube, great option. You can pay to learn. You can go to school and or go to a boot camp or something, or you can get paid to learn. And I think that's the one that everyone should try to go for,
Yeah.
where like you're at a job and you're actually getting paid to learn everything at the job. Because one, you're getting paid, but two, for some reason, learning is so much more. You just have like time for it. You have like peers that will help you. You hopefully have like some sort of a manager or mentor that can help you. That's like where the best learning happens. So my whole philosophy is like get your foot in the data door as quickly as possible, and then you get paid to learn the rest of your career.
Or even if your company is offering to upskill or pay for courses,
It's another
right?
example. Yeah.
That I mean, you'd be surprised how many people don't even know that that's an option until they look into it.
Yeah. You can, yeah. For instance, my employer helped paid for my master's degree a little bit. They paid me to go to you're a visualization guy. Are you an Edward Tufte fan?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sweet. So I had an employer pay for me to go to his like 1 day like workshop series, which
Oh,
was
great.
awesome. Oh, it was
Yeah.
super
How was
cool.
that?
Oh, amazing. I'm a huge Tufte fan. So yeah, I absolutely geeked out at that. So yeah, there's so many, yeah. Getting paid to learn is a great option, and there's lots of avenues once you're in.
Yeah.
Like LinkedIn Learning, a lot of corporate
Yes.
companies have, corporate accounts to LinkedIn Learning, so you can take all the LinkedIn Learning for free.
Listen, even just being connected to the right people on LinkedIn, I learn. Like people
Sure.
post things for free. I learn from you. I learn from other people I'm connected to. So I'm a Tableau social ambassador. So now I'm connected to all these social ambassadors. And the amount that I learn from other Tableau enthusiasts and ambassadors just posting on LinkedIn, like I don't consider LinkedIn a social media. It's more, for me, it's more of a learning platform, networking and learning and meeting people like you, right? And so, to be honest, that's probably my number one used app on my phone, you know, ahead of any other app.
I love it. You can learn a ton on LinkedIn. You can learn a ton on YouTube. You can learn a ton on podcasts. We live in an amazing world where learning is easier than it's ever been,
And it's all free.
and it's cheaper than it's ever been.
Yeah, it's cheaper than it's ever been. Um, so let me ask you to end this off. Um, a few rapid fire questions.
Okay, let's go.
All right. SQL or Python?
Python.
I thought you'd say that. Tableau or Power BI?
I'm a Tableau guy. Yeah,
All right, you and me both. But I mean, no hate against Power BI. And
no hate.
they both I think they both do the job. They'll both get what you need, right?
Yep, for sure.
Um, Start with projects or certifications
Oh, projects.
over certification.
Oh yeah, I personally believe this is a little harsh. I'm going to say it anyways. I personally believe every certification in data analytics is nearly useless. I think the Tableau one and the Alteryx one carry maybe like the most industry weight, but the IBM one, the Google one, the Facebook one, the no one cares, and they're kind of meh.
Okay, I'll confess to you. I don't have any certifications.
I have zero too.
But that's also because I have the experience, and I think my experience will speak more than my certifications. But here's the caveat: if I don't have the experience, will the certification not help me prove? Well, what will that not help prove that I know the content or know the
Um,
tool?
Let me ask it. I personally think anyone can print out that little or just copy the little image and put it on their resume. I don't, it doesn't carry that much weight. I'll tell you this, out of the 2,844 jobs
Yeah.
that we polled, only nine of them mentioned any certificates at all. And none of them were the big name data analytics certificates that you've heard of. If,
Hmm.
and honestly, the only like one that I think is worth maybe looking into is if you want to be like a marketing analyst, if you want to get Google Analytics certified, like their web analytics certification platform. I think that can carry weight. But I personally think nothing beats networking and projects. Like if you have to choose between a certificate and networking and projects, I think networking and projects is more effective.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so that brings me to my next rapid fire question. Networking or LinkedIn or in-person events?
That's tough. If I had to choose one, I think networking with family and friends, like
That's
in
number one.
person, as number one.
Well, you have obviously, that's probably your closest group, like closest to you, right?
Yeah, they're the ones who are willing and want to help you already.
Yeah, exactly. Small startup or big tech company?
Oh, this is fun. I used to work for a 12-person company and then I went and worked for a 70,000
Yeah.
person company and now I work for a one-person company. I'm small
Yeah.
startup all the way.
Really? Why?
Oh, I hate red tape and I hate bureaucracy. Um, and I just could not function in a big, and I will say I've only worked for ExxonMobil. So I've only worked for a manufacturing company. Maybe it would have been different at like a large tech company, like at Google or Meta or something like that. But I love the fast pace of a small team.
So I'm the opposite. I've worked mostly in big companies. Um, Here's where I'll argue with you on that. I think with for stability, the big companies are better. Small startups, the ceiling's higher, the growth may be there, but there's also risk.
Yes, there definitely is. Like, there's a lot of small startups that, like, for instance, when I worked for a small startup, they were late on payroll like a few times. So there's definitely that risk. Um, but I'm a big believer that no job is the only stability you have in the job market is your ability to market yourself and network. Um, when I was at Exxon, there was a ton of layoffs. Granted, it was COVID and no one was driving and no one was flying, so that
Yeah.
was probably like a once in a lifetime situation.
Right.
Um, but but yeah, there's pros and cons to each. Like my desk at Exxon was absolutely incredible. My desk at a startup was absolute trash. There's pros and cons. You choose what you like.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. How about remote work or in office?
Oh, I just posted on this on Threads today.
Mm.
I am all, I love, how about this? I'll say hybrid 1 day a month. I'm all about remote
One
work.
day a month. Yeah.
This morning I got to watch my daughter put on her princess dress because I get to work from home. So
Oh
I'm doing
yeah.
right there.
I agree. I like the amount of I spent so much more time. I'm fully remote, so I spend so much more time with my kids, and I have time also. Like I don't have to travel like 2 hours a day.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can do things like this podcast after work, you know? So it
Yes.
gives me that flexibility. 100%. No, this has been great, Avery. Thank you for all of the insights. Let people know how they can connect with you. What's the best way to connect?
For sure. Well, if you're listening to a podcast, you probably like podcasts. So check mine out. It's called Data Career Podcast, just wherever you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Take a look. And then you can find me on LinkedIn as well, just Avery Smith. Or you can check out my website, datacareerjumpstart.com. I have a free newsletter, free training on going in depth of what we talked about today. Links to my job board, like findajob.com. So you guys can find me there. And I'm sure we'll have some links in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll include all of them in the show notes. Perfect.
Perfect.
That's great. Do you go to Tableau conference?
You know what's funny is I've never been to like any data conference.
Really? Okay,
No.
okay. That's let me before we end off,
Yeah.
why is there a reason why, or is it just you never had the opportunity?
It's mostly I didn't have the opportunity when I worked for a small startup. We didn't have budget for stuff like that. And I
Mm.
worked when I worked for Exxon. Oh, you know what's funny? As I actually went to the Jump conference. I take it back. I've been to the Jump conference, which is a SaaS product, and that was really fun. I really enjoyed it. But then I've just been a solopreneur ever since then, and just never really prioritized it.
The Tableau when I first got into Tableau, I went to a Tableau conference. And that's what got me hooked. I'm like, I love the community. I love this tool. This is what I want to focus on. So I've always had good experiences at conferences. And again, what better place to network than at a place where everyone's there for the same reason?
Agreed.
Awesome. All right, Avery, this was fun. And we might do this again. And there's so many other topics I could talk to you about.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me on this, Sar. It was so good to meet you.